Moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Chris Olmsted. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve that the following bylaws be introduced, read, dealt with, numbered, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed and recorded in the bylaw book. Number 1, Country Haven Waterworks Agreement. Any questions? Christine.
So the actual agreement has been signed by Mr. Verma, and if you're all in agreement with this, it's ready to go.
Any questions? Okay. Number 2, Amendment to Purchase Bylaw 1404-695. Any questions? Okay. Just one line added. Any questions? Moving on. Number 3, Employment Bylaw number 24. And we have a resolution. Moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Chris Olmsted. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region adopts the compensation grid policy revised, dated February 18th, 2015, as part of the Human Resources Policy. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Number 4, Appointment Committee of Adjustment. Christine?
Just a refresher to all of you that Doug got the information from Charles Cheeseman, the Director of the Planning Department at the county, that a Committee of Adjustment must be appointed every year, and that's per the Planning Act. So we weren't aware that that had to happen, and Charles flagged that for us. And there is a Committee of Adjustment matter that is pending. So once this committee is struck, you folks will be giving the public notice to get the process happening correctly from the beginning, and then you'll be in place for the rest of the year.
Councillor McKay.
What is it?
What is what?
The Committee of Adjustment.
That is a committee that it's part of the planning, if I may.
You may.
It's part of the Planning Act that council has the authority to strike a Committee of Adjustment which can provide relief from the, and that's why the term minor variance is used.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted.
2 questions. 1, does this committee operate under the Planning Committee?
Separate.
Okay.
We thought it could, and we were informed by the Planning Department of the county that that is not correct, that it can't. It's a standalone committee.
Okay.
It operates under the authority of the Planning Act, not the Planning Committee.
Gotcha. Okay, and second part of that question is, therefore, it would need a
have a 4-year term. This has to be done annually, is that correct now? Okay, so something new that I've learned.
Any other questions? Okay. Appoint, number 5 is appoint a library board. Any questions on that matter? Christine?
Thank you. And just to make things nice and confusing, this board can be appointed under the Library Act of Ontario for the full term.
Any questions? Do that now? Or do we just do that later? Okay. Appoint pound keepers, fence viewers, etc. It's in the pack. Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you. I did write just a brief memo for you. Previously, Mr. Vincent Gerva would like his name to stand for fire wardens. And Daryl McLaughlin was there from the previous bylaw. We also had 3 other councillors, so we had 4 councillors in total, and Mr. Gerva. And that meant that geographically, they were spread out so that people in Westmeath could get a fire permit in their own locale. Now, there is a requirement for the fire warden to work with our staff in the office that, A, there's a lot of rules and regulations about issuing the fire permit, and then we need copies, either faxed or emailed, into us to the master file so that we know at all times who has a valid current permit and who doesn't. So I left the question marks there because I figured you may want to add people in there.
Councillor McLaughlin.
I'll direct this to the CAO. You as of yet, we have not contacted the previous 4 wardens to see if they would like their name, if they wish to have their names stand.
I didn't do that because they're previous members of council. I didn't feel that was my place. I thought you would want to discuss it, and then you can advise me how you wish to proceed.
Okay, can I just go ahead?
Go ahead.
I just wonder because of the geological structure of it, because there was one in Westmeath, one in Beachburg, another one in Cobden, and I would be willing to make the motion that if we need a motion, you
can just add the names in here where I've left question marks under, and the people in question, we had former councillor Joey Trim in Westmeath, former Mayor Jim LeBeau in Beachburg, and I believe Alan Dick was also, and yourself. They were the 4 who kind of geographically were spread out for this task. So I'll just remove the question marks and print in whatever names under fire wardens you choose.
well, I'm just wondering, and my thoughts are to give the CAO I don't know, to approach them to see if they would like their names to stand. It's just a thought because 2 things. First off, they have understanding of how the process works, and it's a geographical, I guess is the proper word, areas is pretty well all covered. So that's just my thoughts. I'm putting it out there and see what the rest of council thinks.
Councillor Jackson.
Is there any remuneration with regards to the fire wardens?
I believe so. No?
No, it's a volunteer. Daryl's saying no, so he's one of them, so no.
What I was going to suggest is perhaps contact the local stores in the area to see if they want to. It would bring people into their businesses, like the corner stores, like feel they're open. It doesn't interfere with anybody's home, having people come to their home to issue fire permits, et cetera.
Fire chief would like to make a comment.
Okay. I'm going to let Councillor McLaughlin speak, and then Fire Chief Wayne.
I think if you'd let the fire chief speak.
You would like him to go first? He can go first.
He could go first.
Wayne, you'll have to turn the just press the button on the top of the mic until you get a green light, please. There you go.
I think I'd be careful with getting out into stores. You get it, and I'm not saying teenagers, but you get a young person, she's really busy and she has to do a permit. There's a certain segment with the fire wardens of control, and the system is working. I'm not adverse to the idea of having the former councillors, or geographically it has worked well. Mike Moore and I issue only special occasion. If you want to burn your barn howl, then you have to talk to Mike and I. The fire wardens give out the regular permits plus the staff here, and it's a little better control, I think. I'm not adverse to that idea, but I think things have been working well. People are well in tune to getting permits, and we have the 7-day one. Phone the office quite a bit. The downside is Friday night through Monday morning when people want to burn. So the wardens have worked. That system has worked well.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Just to go along with what our fire chief has said, like there are things, and it was a learning curve for me because you cannot burn, and it says right there, it's from 6 p.m. till 8 a.m. unless the permission is given by the fire chief. It's things like that, as well as you've got phone numbers that you have to call to know when you can issue fire permits, when you cannot, when there's a ban on. I'm just like what the fire chief has said. I think Councillor Jackson has a great idea, but right at the moment, because there's so much education to this system, so we don't have people going out unnecessary, because every call that we have to respond to, there's a cost, and it's not a small cost. So that's where I'm coming from. I agree with what Councillor Jackson said. The more we can get out there and make it easier for the people is what we want. But in this case, I kind of think the system that's there is a good system.
Councillor Regier.
I'm just wondering if perhaps with Mr. Gervais, if he could look after the Westmeath La Passe end. I'm wondering if there are any existing councillors that may be interested in taking this on, because I think we could cover the township within our own if Mr. Gervais could look after the Westmeath La Passe area. Just a thought. I don't know if there's anyone interested or not.
Okay, Councillor Jackson.
I know in Laurentian Valley we're currently looking at doing an online application form for fire permits. I know it is it's our responsibility to make sure on the application that we have the rules and regulations. It's their responsibility to follow them. If a store owner has enabled a teenager to work at their store, responsible for cash and responsible for their inventory, then I'm sure they're quite responsible to issue a fire permit. I think as well, perhaps you could contact Laurentian Valley's office, Kayla Janke, to see how it's proceeding with regards to the online application. Currently, right now, Whitewater region is larger graphically than Laurentian Valley, but there is only one place to get the fire permits, and that is only at the office. It's It's all about convenience, and I just think the stores would be the easiest way of doing it, and if it is up to the persons applying for the fire permit in the application process that they follow those regulations and that they tick them off and they read them accordingly. I think a teenager that's working at a store responsible for running that store, if the owner isn't there, is certainly capable of doing that.
I'm not saying that they're not. I just like Vince has done this a long time. He's very vigilant. I do get a lot of phone calls, and mostly on weekends. And Deputy Chief Moore gets a lot of calls too. But people do call us, and in the last 2 years, the system has worked fairly well. I shouldn't say fairly well. I think excellent. People do call us. We have a handle on who is actually burning, and the number of false alarms have actually gone down. Which is a good thing, because with the number of calls coming in too, we were talked earlier about the OPP are responding, and we need to keep a handle on who's paying what now, and so it's working, I think. Not saying it wouldn't work in the store. That may be certain down the road.
Could we,
When these people quit or retire, that's going to be an issue.
could we table this for the moment and bring it back to Protection Services? I think if we go through every step, we could ask. One of the questions we need to ask is, are the stores willing? And so if we could have the stores contacted, former councillors contacted, with the understanding that we're just doing a survey who would, then we could discuss this. We probably have a little bit of time before the snow leaves, so as long as we're ready for the spring, we should be okay, Wayne?
Oh, yeah.
Would that need a consensus? Councillor McLaughlin?
Just to be aware, even in the wintertime, you have to have a burning permit. Am I not right?
Correct.
So,
12 months of the year.
yep.
Okay. Councillor Olmsted?
Just a question and a comment. The question is, the people signing these permits, are they liable in any way?
I'm not sure. They represent the township. Yeah.
Councillor Jackson?
I don't believe so, Councillor Olmsted, because the person that's applying for the permit is signing that they're going to comply and be responsible for all the rules and regulations, and the person issuing the permit can only say that, as far as they've signed the permit, once the applicant has signed it. They're signing that they're going to follow the rules. It's up to them. They're the ones that are liable, not the issuer.
Councillor McLaughlin?
I was just going to say maybe discussion would be good at the fire and protective services. I'm sorry, I'm used to the old system, and I forget the names of the different committees now. But I think maybe we could have a good discussion there with some more information that Wayne maybe could bring with the rules and the responsibilities and all that.
On the back.
I'll just get a vote of consensus to move it to Protective Services Committee and discuss and bring it back. If it gets to be an emergency to get it looked after, we could have a council meeting, very short council meeting at that time, as long as we warn ahead of time we were going to do that. But it doesn't seem to be. The other suggestion is we make everybody, for the moment, other than Darrell and Vince, in their areas, would have to come to the township office until we get this sorted out. Is that fair? Okay, tabled. Oh, Councillor
I just want to make a suggestion maybe to staff is to contact the former councillors that were on, as well as contact the stores to see if they would be interested.
Absolutely.
13.
Okay, number 7 here is Parrot Lot Control, Parrot's Lot 324th 325 and 326, reference plan 49R 18376. Yes, and we'll get Doug to speak to this. There's another one, isn't there? Oh, just the one, okay. Councillor McLaughlin.
So we're gonna go ahead with the bylaw other than the fire wardens? Is that what
Yes.
we're going to do?
We'll just table that one item.
Table that one item,
Yeah.
that's what that answers my question.
Thank you. Oh, okay, Councillor.
Sorry, so these people have all put their name forward to go ahead on the, with the exception of the question marks.
Confirmed. The only question was the fire warden.
Okay.
And, we'll do as Councillor Jackson suggested, bring that back to protected services.
Perhaps there might be one other suggestion is to have the fire captains issue to see if they're interested, and perhaps you can talk to Chief Hebner with regards to that.
That would be a good suggestion, other than I think they all work. Not all the time. Then then we'll do that too. Especially weekends, yeah. All right, Doug, could you lead us through this?
Yes, the fire lot control bylaw that we're passing, it's pretty new for us. It happens when there's an existing subdivision that has a bunch of lots, and they want to eliminate, or they want to eliminate the lot lines. So this property's on the Brudsky property over here, where they built the first 3 units, but now they want to build another 3 units. So what happens is that when they pass the part lot bylaw, it eliminates the center lot lines. And then when it gets registered on title, there's a survey already done that says these parts here will be registered on title as the new lot lines. So that's what if they wanted to do what they wanted to do there, build another 3 units, they would have had to sever it in half and then go on there. But this is the county has decided this is a better way to do it.
Councillor Jackson?
So just to be clear, once the buildings are finished, they're surveyed, and the dividing between the 2 units itself are all new property.
That's correct.
So even though there's a set of 3 now,
Yep.
and a new set of 3, so that'd actually be 6 lots.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor McLaughlin?
Not a question as much as clarification. This did come up before, did it not, Doug?
What they did before was a rezoning to eliminate lot lines, the distance to lot lines. And now this is the second part of it to go ahead and they're allowed to go ahead and build on the other part of it now. Because even though they did a 0 to the lot line, still the lot lines were there. So when they wanted to start the building, they'd be putting different sections of the building on each lot, so they wanted to straighten it out.
You've answered my question. I knew that something had come up. I couldn't remember just exactly what it was.
Councillor Olmsted?
So do they have to adhere to all other provisions of building on a lot then?
Yes, they did do a setback, rezoning for the setback on the frontage of them lots a while ago, when they first did the first one. So yes, they do have to do that.
Okay, and second part of the question, if I may?
You may.
I may have asked you this before, does each property or does each unit have to have their separate water sewer hookups?
Yes, they should.
You know, is that happening now?
I'm not sure if they have, but yes, they should.
Maybe Bill could talk to that. They aren't built yet, is my question.
The first 3 are built already.
The first 3 are built, but the first 3 all have their own services. So go ahead.
So, do you know, are each of these units being billed as a separate property for water and sewer service? careful as there's a subdivision going up, and we're looking for expansion to our current waste facility, that this could be a real way around paying full price for services if somebody gets really smart here. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson?
I think once they're all severed, they should be billed separately because they'll be separate units, and they won't be all owned by one, they'll be owned individually. Right now, I think, I believe that they're currently being rented, those original 3, and that's why they're probably being billed to one owner with the multi-residential. And once they're all separated into the 6 units, they'll be all billed separately because they will actually have a roll number, be a complete property.
And in order that each dwelling can be charged for a water service, it has to have an individual water service. I believe that's in the rules, because if you go across now with a multi, so you go across with 1 3/4-inch line and do 3 3/4-inch lines, you can only charge for one service. So they have to be individual. So the first set that you described is exactly right. That's perfect. Yeah. 3 curb stops and 1 manhole servicing across the road is perfect. Any other questions? All right. We will vote on the bylaw at this point with the 1 item tabled for fire. Councillor Darrell McLaughlin.
I'm going back to the employment bylaw. I'm wondering, I'm confused a bit on our discussion and what's in here, because, and maybe Councillor Jackson would have a better handle than I do, but I thought we had spoke about using the October, from October to October. Is this, and I see nothing mentioned. Yeah, well, yeah, the CPR, but I see the CPR all right, but it's not saying anywhere. And
Councillor Jackson.
Under Section 3 of that policy, it says it will present a report outlining the rate of inflation, CPI, as of October, and just along with historical data. And that will happen in December to be effective in January.
Any other questions? No further discussion?
no, I got my answer, and I knew the right person would give me the answer.
10-4. All right. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay, perfect. Moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Chris Olmsted, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receives and files correspondence 1 to 8. All those in favor? Discussion? Councillor McLaughlin?
Just discussion on 11.1. I would not be able to do that if we're talking, and I'm in the right spot. The lady with the Cobden Blood Donors Committee. Because years ago, I was in contact with had jaundice, so I cannot donate blood.
Can you appoint anybody in your place?
I guess maybe that would, I could appoint any of the other councillors.
Okay. Councillor Jackson.
I think it's just asking us to encourage that others to make the commitment to give blood. I know it's probably asking us to give blood as well, but as well as encouraging it. And I certainly would do that with regards to any information that we can put on our website with regards to that. I would encourage staff to do that.
Also, we can plead to the camera that anybody that can donate to the upcoming blood donor clinic, please attempt to get out. Our region has 2 hospitals, one on each side of us, and apparently we're very low in our donations of blood recently. So we have to get out there. It could be your own life you're saving, actually. Okay, any other questions? Councillor Olmsted.
Yeah, I just had one on item number 11-3, the OPP, with respect to prisoner transportation program. So it seems there's a change in the way the funding is handled now from the Ministry of Community Safety to the OPP. And just one comment in there caught my attention. Under the billing model, only municipalities that have a courthouse in the municipality will be charged for court security costs. So does anyone know, were we formally charged for security costs under the old model?
I don't think so.
And is there a potential saving?
Councillor Jackson.
No, I don't believe we were ever charged, in other municipalities as well. You do get a grant allocation. I'm very unclear as to why we get a grant allocation, as even though we don't pay for the court transportation, the transportation costs, and perhaps it's built in with the OPP costing overall that the OPP has to do transportation costs as a whole. But certainly I know that the municipalities that do have court offices are paying for direct costs for court security and prisoner transportation. There must be a portion in which that we pay when our prisoners that belong to Whitewater Region are transported, but it's not a line item. I just know that we do receive a grant every year, it seems, and it must be built into the administration costs with regards to the OPP.
They note on the, excuse me, on the bottom of page 1, your municipality's 2015 grant allocation under this program is $3,271. Please note that this grant is subject to reduction should the actual cost be lower than the grant allocation. But if it's meant to be a compensation for the municipalities who actually have the courts, then why are we getting it? Yeah, I'm going to ask Marcia to look into that.
The way that I read that is we'll get 0 because it's lower than that amount that we pay. Right? Councillor Olmsted.
So just rereading it a few times, it seems like there's 2 formulas in here. One's for court security, the other's for prisoner transportation.
That's right.
So we probably received that funding for prisoner transportation, nothing for court security, I would assume.
Oh, because prisoner transportation would require a cruiser to pick up their stuff.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. And because we don't have, it's lesser than that amount for the other, we'll get nothing. Well, yeah, but if it's a lesser than, I think I'd be doubtful. They're very, I'm just saying, they're a bit sneaky. Can't say that. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Next item, I didn't draft a motion for. It would be very unusual for us to support a union asking to save.
request for support to Save Canada Post in our correspondence. Okay. Yeah, it's from Cup W. Any thoughts on how we would proceed at this point? Councillor McLaughlin.
I don't, if I read this correctly, they're talking about, the door-to-door delivery? Is that correct? There's nothing mentioned in here, about the rural area? That I could read.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll because I just thinking through this, we don't have any door-to-door service other than in a rural area. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, it does mention rural or country in that one. Councillor Jackson.
I think this support is for more of the cities, where instead of the actual physical person walking door to door, they're going to do the group boxes like we already have in some of the rural areas that we have group boxes. And they're stating that some of those male postie people are going to be losing their jobs because it's all going to be delivered just like we get our mail currently in the rural area. It's not going to affect us in any way, as far as I know, with any of the changes that are.
So what I'm hearing is we really aren't in any way, shape, or form in support of this for our municipality. It's non-applicable to us. Thank you. Moved by Darrell McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Olmsted. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region agrees to participate in Autism Ontario's Raise the Flag campaign on April 2nd, 2015 in celebration of the World Autism Awareness. And I'm going to get Christine to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've participated in this program at our flagpoles right out here in front of the building for the last 2 years, and we do have a flag that's tucked away, ready to go this year. The mayor has presided and made a few remarks, and the press have attended, so this would be the 3rd year if you agree that we'll do this.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. The next one on the agenda is the parking bylaw review. And so we'll have staff come forward.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to introduce Jim McVeigh. If any of you don't know him, this is all a new council. And Jim is our bylaw enforcement officer that goes out there and, I guess, walks the streets and stuff like that. How we got to a parking bylaw. In 2011, when I started here, we had major concerns from the roads department, fire department, the school bus drivers complaining about parking situations. So we started working slowly at a new bylaw. Our old bylaw had no short form wording. So what would happen before, when the school bus drivers would phone me and say they can't turn at the corner over here, I could go out and give them a warning, put it on their car, go into the school and say, please move your car. So this started being a weekly kind of a thing. Probably twice a week, I think, Darrell, sometimes. daily, sometimes daily. So about 3 o'clock every day I go over there and that's what I do, give them a warning and that. So council give us direction to draft a bylaw. And we took a long time drafting it. We wanted it to be user-friendly. And the roads department had their say in the snow removal and stuff like that, and the fire department had their say. And finally, we got to a bylaw. In the last 2.5 years, we've had 2 incidents where the roads equipment have hit parked vehicles. So I guess what I need from council is some direction. How do you want us to proceed from this part? We've had lots of concerns. Do you want us to just some direction?
Just for clarification, under item 10, winter parking restrictions, can you refresh me? Why would it be from 3 a.m. to 12 noon?
Well, I think it was a recommendation at the time. Our old one was different. It was, but the recommendation I think come from the roads department because the way their staff is. And I'll let Bill talk about that.
Yeah, the reason that it came from 3 o'clock in the morning till noon is because we don't go out until 5 o'clock in the morning. And for purposes of picking up the snow, we normally don't start until 7 o'clock in the morning and we work all day at it. We don't do snow removal on the streets at nighttime because it would incur too much overtime. So that was part of the reason when Doug asked about how do you want the parking bylaw set up, do you want it from midnight till 7 in the morning like the city has it? I said, well, that makes no sense. We don't do snow removal unless it's an absolute terrible storm. That was more for the picking up of the snow because we do it between the hours of 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we tried to go at noon. I'll give you an example. Most days we get into Cobden, we're done there by noon, then we head to Beachburg. We get there by noon, the parking bylaw is already elapsed or run out, and we're trying to pick up snow on Main Street in Beachburg and cars are parked all over the place. So I think we need to try and tweak that a little bit, one way or another. Work with some of the residents, there's no doubt about it. Some of them are better than others, but we just wanted to have something that we could fall back on. So there was, if there became a liability issue, we would be able to cover it.
Councillor Olmsted.
I think reading through it, I think we need a clearer definition or clearer wording, because when I read through the bylaw and then I saw the postings in the local papers, to me the first alarm bell that went off said no parking until noon, which would mean a lot of business owners wouldn't be very happy. And secondly, a lot of people are coming out of church, the churches are 10, 11 a.m., potentially could receive a parking ticket. So I think a lot of it could be cleared up just with clear wording, whether we recognize that we tie it to a forecast of X centimeters of snow. But I had a few conversations in town with business owners, and that's one very clear issue they had was potentially if somebody could come up to their store, come back out of the store and have a parking ticket because it does say until noon.
I agree with Councillor Olmsted. I think instead of just being straight from November 15th to April 15th, it could be tied into an accumulation of snow and when there is snow removal necessary, as well as perhaps when the school buses are running with regards to going around that corner or whatever. But I know that there's also a fire lane in that area as well on Gould Street, I believe. So there's that concern, but I think that one of the biggest concerns I have is when there's snow removal going to be taking place, then, and I hear you with regards to the 12 noon over in Beachburg, perhaps in the morning somebody can go out there, a sign could be made that snow removal will occur today, so that they're given fair warning. If they know gonna be around noon, anytime that there is snow removal, and it could be put right on the sign, snow removal to begin today at noon. And then everybody that has gone through Beachburg certainly would be aware that the snow removal will begin at that time. But I know there's great concern with regards to the parking on Main Street and parking in other areas with regards to snow removal. In and around Cobden, so it affects all of Cobden, even though all of the village of Cobden isn't subject to snow removal. Like the side streets typically are not. It's just the main street is my understanding for the most part for
We have lots of back streets in Cobden and a couple in Beachburg too that we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wherever there's sidewalks basically where the
Yes, yes.
yeah, I don't like to see that it's point blank from November 15th to April 15th because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Especially this year we haven't had a whole lot of snow. When we do get snow, it is removed within a couple of days, which is great. But people need to understand when they can park and when they can't, because they'll go for weeks parking and they won't get anything, and then all of a sudden one night they'll get the ticket. Now, of course, this is new because it was put in place in 2014, so this is the first winter, I believe, that this is in force. I mean, Mr. McBain has done a great job in ticketing, unfortunately, and that's why we're forced with reviewing this again. But I don't know if there's a suggestion with regards to accumulation of snow and when that hasn't been removed. So if it's accumulated over 5 centimeters, I don't know what your process is with regards to snow removal. If it's, after 10 centimeters, then you go out and you remove the snow. But until that snow removal has occurred, then there's no parking. That could be a wording as well. I don't know. Suggestion.
That and just when they are actually plowing the streets. So there's the two times. And the unfortunate part is, so the snowstorm tonight, we'll plow it tomorrow morning. We may not get to town Friday to pick it up if it's enough tonight. So then we don't get here till at least next Monday, depending if it snows again over the weekend or not. So saying you can't park on the street until the snow has been removed won't work either, because it could be Wednesday of next week before we actually get to pick up the snow, because we don't have dedicated crews that do that. It's a very, very touchy one to figure out how we're going to do it, but obviously it has to be, we have to come up with a better system, and unfortunately, this being the first year, we've identified a problem, that there is a problem, so.
Two things. First off, do we have control over the county roads?
No, we don't. We would have to ask the county to pass a bylaw appointing us to look after their roads.
So we do not have the responsibility to ticket
Not
on the county roads
at this time.
So that would then eliminate the main street of Cobden. Is that
Eliminates
correct?
the main street of Cobden, the main street of Beachburg, and the main street of Westmeath,
Exactly.
and Foresters Falls.
So that takes away a whole lot of the problems that have been, I hear around the table. Am I wrong on my assumption? Because what I see, and I think this has to come, like what our road super says, we need to go, but I don't think, I know if I was the one that was issuing the tickets, I would just throw my hands up and say, well, I don't know when to go and when not to go, if we're going to go with levels. But I really think, so that my main question was that we have no right to do any ticketing on the main street, on the county roads.
That's correct.
So that eliminates a big pile of the problem. It doesn't help our road super, though, with the snow removal.
And that would be one of the questions we would ask you if you wanted us to revise this bylaw, whether whether you wanted us to include that or not.
Just ask, so this is new. Was the public educated on this bylaw? And the reason I ask, and I've got two parts to that, is Cobden right now the only people being ticketed? Has anybody else in the municipality?
I guess I'll answer that. We did put an ad in the paper, and the first time that Jim went out, we issued warnings. Cobden has been the one that's been ticketed because the way our bylaw is set. Jim, most other bylaws start at 1 o'clock, I think, and Jim starts at Arm Prior, goes to Renfrew, and then by the time he comes to Beachburg, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. So he quits about 4 o'clock because he doesn't want to ticket somebody that's just going to work. So he gets to Cobden and that. We probably can look at better spreading it out. We could say maybe something that, okay, Cobden 1 week, Beachburg 1 week, or whatever, once a month. But we're looking for direction from council right now. How do you want to deal with this?
And just the second part to that then, when I'm talking about education, could we put something in the tax bills? Because a lot of people don't read the paper. Could we put something in the tax bills to make people aware of this bylaw and just make people aware of it?
Yes, definitely we can, and we can also make sure it's on our website.
Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Perhaps what we need to do is take a good look at this parking bylaw and table it to the actual committee meeting, come up with some solutions. Maybe if you have some wording, pass it along to staff and see if that works. And, staff be open with us to say, but this might be an issue. But definitely there needs to be a little bit of tweaking. As this is the first year, but I do agree that education in the tax bills would be great. Water bills would even be great as well. A little notification because it does hit, the built-up areas. But this is all for, it says any highway, so it means all over the municipality and not just Cobden. We have to be aware of that. We don't want to be seen as targeting one area if that's the area that always seems to be hit. I do know, and maybe Mr. McBain can comment on this, but my understanding was that there was tickets issued on the main street of Cobden, and have they been withdrawn?
There was 3 tickets issued on the main street of Cobden. They have been withdrawn.
Thank you.
Just on the others, if we're going to revise this bylaw, it takes some time because we may have to send it back to the courts to get the short form wording approved. What do we do, because there's rumors out there about the people that have been ticketed already?
Councillor Johnson.
I would say that you might need to get an opinion with regards to that if we're going to revise it. But as far as I know, until any law is revised, that law is in place until it's so revised.
I would agree with that, but there's been a lot of people phoning our office saying that, that council was going to rescind these and stuff like that. So, and I kept saying to them, you better just follow the ticket. I said, until we get direction.
Reeve Miller.
Yeah, I think as a council, and you're asking for direction from the council, I think it's imperative that all these tickets get rescinded immediately. We did without a parking bylaw up until a couple years ago, and I don't know where all the snow was for the last 50, 60 years. I realize Bill is having trouble, and maybe I'm a little naive, but this isn't downtown Toronto, and we can work around it at least in the meantime. I really think that council should rescind all tickets, do not authorize any more tickets to be written, and that we should help Bill solve the problem and revisit it. We almost got this winter in, and revisit it next year. We're just turning our people off here over nothing. There's people out there that believe we're doing this for a $20 bill, an $8 million budget, and we're doing this for a $20 bill. They think it's about money. It's craziness. And we're putting a lot of time into it. I think we should work on it, but I think everything should be halted and everything should be rescinded. The night in question that was a big issue in Cobden was that Saturday night. There was no snow. And I think I heard we got 8 or 9 tickets at a house party, people that were going to leave at 4 in the morning. These were people that came in here to this area to have a special party at the Legion here across the night. There was band members, there was everything. Every one of them got a ticket, and we didn't get any snow. We had a little flurry earlier in the night, but we didn't have any equipment out. I say no more till we resolve it and get it down pat and rescind everything. That's my feeling.
Okay. What I'm hearing is this goes to committee. We'll table it for now. We need to have everybody on board to a proper way of doing this. I know there are several different ways that we can approach this, and we can approach it in a two-step manner, one for removal and one for plowing. And I did this job for 10 years, and I know exactly what Bill's going through with this. This is quite a problem during the removal, especially. What we used to do, Bill, was if they wouldn't move their car, we'd just bring the snow all the way up street and put in both ends of it. That usually solved that. You can't do that. I know you can't do that, but I'm on the camera saying you can. And we need to get this right. So let's take the time to do it. Councillor Olmsted.
Just to be clear, I don't want people to get the impression, I don't think that this became an issue recently through Public Works and snow removal, and this was, I think, just acting on behalf of the current bylaw situation. So I don't think there's been any issues this winter with people not moving their cars and that kind of thing through snow removal. Am I correct?
No, this came about because 2 years ago we actually had a snowplow run into a vehicle, and we started checking into the liability. And because we had nothing, we were left open for liability. So we had to put something in place in order to cover ourselves. And that was the biggest reason that, and this doesn't just cover it for snow removal. There's only one little chapter of this whole bylaw. This is the chapter that's given us trouble. The fire department's also had an issue at the Beachburg Fair. The fire trucks couldn't get out one day, so they had to get a vehicle towed. This covers that being done. So because this is the first winter that it came into effect, you know, we realize that now, yes, there are some issues. We'll have to tweak it and get it done right. There's no day. We'll probably fix it 2 or 3 times before we actually get it done right. You know, we'll try something else and it won't quite work.
And the vehicle that was hit, just to be clear, was not in any town. It was on a back road, a country road, right? So
Snowed for 4 days.
Exactly.
It was drifting that day,
Right.
just like it was in the weekend.
It was on Waterview.
right.
Councillor McLaughlin.
I understand what Reeve Miller is saying, but I think it comes down to education. I mean, the people may not have known, but I'm sure that the house owner should have known, and I agree to rescind all the tickets, but people have to be educated. I think we need to work on this, but I do not think it's something that we should drop. I think we have to go ahead, and I understand, and I can understand Mr. McBain and the problems he's having. I think we need input from mainly the staff to give us some direction, some thoughts that they have, but I think we need to go ahead with this. It's not something that should be dropped because, like Bill says, it's liability end that we need to have, and that's one of the main reasons we put this in. Maybe there wasn't enough thought put into it, so I think revisit it, but do not drop it.